Hey guys, my name is Toby and welcome back to another very exciting Photoshop tutorial where today we're going to be taking a look at how to move objects around inside of a photo. And if you're working with a layered document, then that's something that's very self-explanatory in how to do. But when you're working with a flattened image like this, it can be a little bit more involved. So let's say we wanted to move this ladybird down here. Now, one way of doing that would be to clone stamp this down here, but what you're going to see is that the background is actually slightly lighter on this side than it is on the other side. So if you did that, you'd start to see a slight tonal difference from where you clone stamped it, and it would just take a little bit of time to clean that up. Not the most difficult thing in the world to do, but it just takes, maybe a couple of minutes. Equally, if you clone stamped it, you'd then be left with an original because you've cloned it and you'd end up with two copies. So you then have to remove this one before you could call the image finished. And again, it's very simple to do, but it just takes some time. And I'm all about anything that saves me time. And fortunately, Photoshop has a tool built in it to do just this in almost one click. It's the simplest and quickest way that exists that I can think of to move an object in this way. So the way we do it is we need to come up to where the healing brush lives, and in this stack of tools you've got the content aware move tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then what you want to do is basically draw an outline around the thing that you want to move, but you need to make sure that you leave a good amount of background in your selection. And this is because Photoshop is using the content aware system to move your tool, so it needs content to be aware of, if that makes sense. In this case, it needs kind of background information so it knows what it has to blend. And you will notice I've gone quite wide on the right hand side here, and that's because I want to get this shadow in as well, so I need to get background around where the shadow is too. So now that we've done that, I'm going to click and drag this down here, and it's going to give us a transform box here. So this is if you want to scale it or rotate it or do something like that to it. I don't want to do any of that, so I'm just going to finalize this by hitting enter. And then when you hit enter, the first one completely disappears and it leaves us with this one down here. So I hit Command D for deselect. You can see that has perfectly blended that in no time at all. So that's 2 steps or 3 steps and it's done. Simple as that, no fuss, no hassle. You can do it in 10 seconds if you're quick. And that's the best way to move something around in Photoshop that exists in the world. Now, this is obviously a very simple example. We've got a very clean, simple background with a single object that we want to move, but it will also work in slightly more difficult situations. So in this case, if we wanted to move this barn over, let's say, we could still do that. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rough selection around this barn, and we'll grab some of that tree as well, and we'll go ahead and move it over here. I'm going to try and line it up on this side with those trees just to make it a little bit easier for Photoshop to do. And now I'm going to hit enter and hit deselect, and as you can see, it's done a pretty good job. It's not perfect, particularly on this side. There is some work that could be done here, but it's certainly a starting point. It's also filled this in reasonably well. I mean, you might want to consider trying to get rid of that. It's not done a perfect job, but this is certainly enough of a starting point that now you could start to kind of clone stamp in some other bits and just kind of hide a lot of these mistakes that it's made. So for instance, if we were to take our clone stamp tool, we could just come in here and we could start to clone out some of this over here. Just enough to kind of make it blend in a bit more. And maybe we could take this tree and just kind of add that back in just there. And it's, it's just kind of as much work as you want to put into this really. But my point is, it will do a good job at least of getting you a starting point. If it doesn't do it flawlessly with something more complicated, it will get you a good point to continue working from. So hopefully that's helpful. I think it's a brilliant little time-saving tool in terms of just getting a bulk of the work done for you, or indeed everything done in a single click. My name is Toby, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.